A field of golden wheat is an iconic Australian image, and with good reason. It's our major grain crop, with more than 13 million hectares planted each year. But cereal crops don't like salty soil, and given that over 60% of Australian farmland is affected by salinity, that presents a major challenge for our farmers.
As you can see by the salty country around here, it is getting worse with the dry seasons that we've had. Less rain, the salt rises to the surface, and it is spreading significantly. The salinity stops the roots from growing, and then they don't thrive. So it has a very significant effect. In some of our paddocks, up to 50% yield reduction.
When severe, the problem is easy to see. It shows up as patches of white, salt-encrusted earth, where virtually nothing survives.
The water tables are very close to the surface, about a metre from the surface. Then these water tables are highly saline in Australia. It's very highly concentrated. No agricultural crops can grow, only salt-tolerant grasses can grow.
In less severe areas, the salt cannot be seen on the surface, but it still has a detrimental effect on crop growth.
Well, the first thing is the roots go, oh, salty soil, we're in trouble. And through mechanisms we still don't know, they slow the growth of the shoots really quite rapidly. Then the other part is the salt itself accumulating in the shoots.
There are two ways to deal with the problem of farmland salinity.
One is managing the soils, but it is not very easy. That is why the other approach is to improve the crop. The crops that can tolerate more salt.
Different plants have different levels of salt tolerance. It's this characteristic that researchers are using to try and help plants withstand salinity.
Salinity tolerance is due to various plant processes. One, which is pretty obvious really, is to just keep the salty stuff out of the shoots where the salt is making the plants die more rapidly. Another way we can try to improve our salinity tolerance is to increase the ability of the shoots to maintain their growth, to stay green, for example, in the face of more salt upstairs.
Scientists are studying crop species at the Plant Accelerator. It's a new super greenhouse at the University of Adelaide. This facility measures the health and growth of plants under different salt conditions, and because it's automated, it's 10 times faster than doing it manually.
It's able to look at the plants at a whole range of different wavelengths that you and I can see, but also wavelengths that only these sophisticated cameras can measure. And this gives us information about how much the plants are growing, how fast they're dying, and some aspects of their function, such as how intact their photosynthetic machinery is.
This exhaustive process correlates physical traits with the genes that are responsible for a plant being salt tolerant.
What we want to try to do is understand the genes which are in some plants which are more able to tolerate salt, which are missing in the weaker plants, and see if we're able to understand the genetic, the molecular basis for that salinity tolerance naturally existing in some plants and transfer that to the more salt-sensitive varieties.
Test plants in the lab can be genetically modified by adding those genes that make the plant less susceptible to salinity.
What we're doing here is transforming Thale cress. Dip them into the solution of bacterium, and that bacterium now incorporates with the flowers and injects the DNA into the developing flowers, so the seed are transgenic.
Right, so the bacteria is actually a vehicle for the gene which gets absorbed into the flower.
That's right.
It's pretty nifty.
The inserted gene has a fluorescent marker attached to it, so it shows up under the microscope as a green glow. Now, these genetically modified plants are put to the test. Will they survive in salty water?
So here's what we call the mother line, the line where we've got the fluorescence just in the inner part of the root and not the gene. Whoa, look how long those roots are. And there's the plant with the gene turned on. Incredible difference in their ability to keep growing in this salty solution.
And how salty is this solution?
This solution's getting on towards seawater in strength.
Wow.
And it's quite impressive. Here we've got the plants in normal solutions without any salt added.
So that's the way they should be growing.
That's the way they should be growing. Right. And that's what we want.
The team have progressed from a model plant to inserting the salt-tolerant genes in cereal crops like rice and wheat. The challenge now is to make this happen on a larger scale, not just in the laboratory.
What we have done is definitely contribute to increasing salinity tolerance in the crops. It's surprisingly difficult to actually implement that and actually get it out into the fields because of the technical issues and the regulatory hurdles that we have to get over.
We farm about 2,400 hectares.
Many farmers now facing the challenge of saline soil are hopeful plant research will eventually lead to increased crop yields.
More emphasis placed on breeding varieties of wheat, barley and whatever other cereals to be more salt tolerant, and they would mean that large areas of our farm would be quite profitable, or more profitable than they are given a good season.